serious indeed. Of the Canadian DND is now scrambling to come up with a citizens army of 300,000 people, as I mentioned before, mobilize and equipping citizens, essentially getting on to war footing right here. To tell us more about it, I want to bring in the leader of Midas Canada, Charlie Angus, and leader of the Resistance Tour. How big is this, Charlie? This seems to be unprecedented and a direct response to what I talked about earlier in this video, the United States national security strategy, referring to, and you did a great video on this, referring to Canada basically as a vassal state in the U.S., exercising spheres of influence and controlling Canada. It's how it's described in the official document. The U.S. basically saying Europe belongs to Russia in Russia's sphere of influence. What's going on?
This is unprecedented. We've always had a standing Canadian Army. We've had reserves. We don't have a National Guard. We have reserves and people who, can work at the grocery store and go in the summer and get trained up and be ready for military training. But it's a very specific group of people who do that. They're talking about a 300,000 citizens army of volunteers. Now they're being really careful what they're saying in the media. Oh, it'll be to fight forest fires and emergencies, but they're also talking about taking people who are older, people who wouldn't normally pass the physical, people who aren't of military age, and teaching them how to work drones. I think this is a sign that, the prime minister's kept a very cool smile on his face. He's never really said what they really think the threat is, but we've seen the Trump doctrine. The Trump doctrine lays it out. They are abandoning the Democratic allies. They are going to actively undermine their former allies. They believe that Canada will be some kind of vassal state. And clearly, the government is taking this seriously enough to float to the public the notion of a 300,000 standing citizens army of volunteers who are going to be trained up in many tasks. And that, I think, is going to be to send a message that we will defend this land.
Things have been moving at a very quick pace. I mean, it's all been moving in this direction, since this gangster regime took over. But just even over the past 48 hours, 72 hours, despite the media devoting very little coverage to this, It seems that there are seismic shifts happening right now over geopolitical strategy. And that follows the Trump trying to force Ukraine into this surrender. This follows the ultimatum coming directly from Russia through Trump. And I think that Canada sees this loud and clear. Europe is now seeing it loud and clear. And it's so monumental, the shifts that are taking place, yet the attention it gets is very little.
Yeah, it's been staggering. I mean, this is, I think, why people watch Midas Touch and Midas Canada, because the mainstream media are not covering this to the extent that it needs to be covered. What we are seeing, particularly with the dropping of the Trump doctrine, is out there. What everybody knew behind the scenes is now clear. This is the global blueprint for a takeover, for a global conflict. I mean, Sergei Lavrov, who Trump invited him into the White House, is talking about Russia's already fighting World War III and hybrid warfare, hybrid pressure, pushing Europe. Trump has been undermining, threatening Zelensky. Just as you say, in the last 48 hours, what's been really showing up, though, is the cracks in the MAGA credibility on this. I mean, nobody's believing Trump when he threatens Zelensky. President Zelensky's meeting with Europeans. I know that they've been meeting seriously. They've got Chrystia Freeland, the former deputy prime minister, is now the special envoy in Ukraine, sent over by our prime minister. But the fact that we are now letting it be known that we are looking to establish a standing volunteer army to defend our country from whatever they say, any possible problem. This is sending a message to Trump that we are not going to roll over.
We saw the delegation of Sweden. We covered this in detail about 3 weeks ago. Everyone from the royal family to their deputy prime minister talking about, Saab and military weapons and trying to shift away from the F-35s and, Trump saying that he would basically rig the military equipment in order to control whoever received American military equipment. You have, France, offering military equipment. So it seems to be, and Canada, because of its reliance before on American military equipment, it's hard just to switch from the F series and go completely to a new one. Just you have to train the pilots again. So it's difficult. How's Canada navigating these things in addition to the standing army we see?
Well, these are again unprecedented times. One of the reasons that we were so integrated with the U.S. is we are always doing training drills with the U.S., with the Navy, with the Air Force, with military. Anybody who's been in the Canadian military, Royal Canadian Navy, have worked closely with their U.S. counterparts. So now suddenly we see that this is no longer just friends anymore. We're seeing a standing army, massive Air Force, massive, powerful Navy that is sending very clear messages of Monroe Doctrine gunboat diplomacy. So the scramble to build this connection in Europe, this is happening faster than these systems are meant to accommodate. They're just not meant to turn around this kind of procurement, a changeover, starting to look to other allies to get subs, to get planes. But I think everyone's taking this very, very seriously, and I do take some comfort. I mean, I'm going to fight with the prime minister here, there, and everywhere on certain issues. But the fact that he's been in Europe, that meeting with the Swedes, meeting with the Finns, I mean, these guys are on the front lines. That Canada's just sent over a new contingent of soldiers to Latvia. The Baltics will be the next front line from Ukraine. But everybody here in Canada feels that if Ukraine falls, Canada's next, because these are gangster oligarchs. And so this step now is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see whether Canada's military, with their traditional hidebound views on how to do things, will be able to bring that 300,000 person force into being. I think it's going to have to be more creative. I think there's a lot of people out there. I hear from people all the time, people who are getting gun licenses, who never had gun licenses before, people who say, I will be there if that day comes. The fact that they just casually mentioned in some of the news reporting, and we'll teach you about drones. I think that this is sending a message to Pete Hoekstra, to Pete Hegseth, to Donald Trump, that Canada is not going to be a vassal state, and the gunboat diplomacy is not going to cross the line into our country.
We see this also. Japan, a mass military mobilization. Germany building up its military. We're seeing this in other locations too. In Denmark, they just declared, their spy agency just declared U.S. a security threat. Their focus. So we're seeing this also in other countries as well. Some of the biggest military buildups also. But before we go, Charlie, I just wanted to get you. We always do this at the end of these videos. What message do you want to send to Donald Trump right now? We know his regime watches this all the time.
Well, I was told by Canadians, stop talking to Trump, because you know what? We don't care anymore, Donald. You're going to threaten us. We've seen what your Trump doctrine is. This is extreme, racist, isolationist. You are weaker. You are alone. You are in a disastrous situation. You're having to come up with $11 billion to try and bail out your farmers because of your tariff war and your attacks on markets. Canada's had a great agricultural year. Thank you very much. We're moving in on markets that you had before, Donald, because we work with our allies. Our economy is holding its own, Donald. We are not seeing the crisis in affordability that you are, because we are accommodating and getting ready. But what this tells me, Donald, is that as the cracks get bigger and bigger in MAGA, the rest of the world has moved on. So Vladimir Putin is a very happy man right now. He's got his obedient, dumb sock puppet in you, and you are doing his bidding. World War III may be underway, as Sergei Lavrov, your handler, brags, but that's only possible, Donald, because you have abandoned your traditional allies. Well, your allies are going to hold the ground without you. We're going to hold the line in Ukraine. We're going to hold the line in Europe. We're going to hold the line along the immense 49th parallel and in all our ports and in the far north. We will remain, Donald, at the end of the day, true north, strong and free. You'll probably end up in a jail cell someday.
Which is why Donald Trump is now threatening the International Criminal Court that they need to, even though the United States is not a member of it, to amend their founding documents to give him immunity, because he knows those war tribunals are coming. Charlie Angus leads Midas Canada. make sure you subscribe to Midas Canada. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks so much for that, Ben.